Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Mari Jackson and I'm with the Sustainable Trumbull Committee. Thank you all for joining us today. For anyone not familiar with the Sustainable Trumbull Committee, we are a volunteer group through the town, and we've been working on reviewing sustainable actions across many categories in hopes of obtaining the Sustainable Connecticut certification, and it looks like very promising at this point. I've been taking charge on the energy efficiency and analysis portion for the town. So we've been identifying internal energy efficient programs, as well as looking at external ways to promote energy efficiency. So basically in doing so, we've realized that the town does have a link to the Connecticut Green Bank's website under the Business Development Center, but we haven't had a formal live, or as we're doing now, the Zoom in-person outreach to business and building owners as to what the program can offer. So I personally attended the energy efficient program that was offered through the town of Fairfield's economic development last March, and I found it extremely helpful. It's allowed me to move forward in investigating solar and other energy projects for my business. So I thought this was a great program, and we hope you'll find it as helpful today as well. So before I introduce our Green Bank presenters for today, I just want to remind everybody to stay muted. If you'd like to drop your email in the chat section, we can reach out to you with a recording of today's presentation, as well as any additional handouts that might be appropriate. And we will have some time at the end, I'm sure, to answer a couple of questions. So you can let me know if you'd like to ask a question in the chat section as well. I'm going to introduce Nicholas Zuba and Emily Basham. Is that correct, Emily? I hope I pronounced it correctly. With the Connecticut Green Bank, and they're going to present their information to you today.
All right, thank you so much, Mari, and then good afternoon to everyone here. We thank you for joining this afternoon to learn certainly a lot more about some Connecticut Green Bank offerings that are helpful for not only certainly business owners, but then as well as nonprofit organizations who want to take charge really of their energy costs and energy concerns that they have, so that, again, they can continue to prosper and foster really, again, a more environmentally sustainable future for their own organizations. And so we're happy to be here to share with you some insights on programs that can help you do just that. All right, and so just a brief overview of who the Connecticut Green Bank is. So basically, we are a quasi-public agency of the state of Connecticut, in which case we were founded in 2011 in this form. In which case, we are tasked with, helping the state in terms of both its legislature and as well as the governor's office with helping to carry out and to meet their energy and sustainability goals, so that the state can, again, continue to be a leader when it comes to doing energy efficiency and renewable energy type investments into the state. So in which case, we are certainly one of the first state green banks that were formed to be able to then create this opportunity to invest in these types of projects from residential homeowners, multifamily property owners, and then as well over to commercial and industrial property owners. And so, our vision is very simple as an organization. We're trying to empower a world, by the renewable energy of community. And so there's kind of a double meaning to that, really. It's talking about ways that we can continue to deploy clean energy for any end users within the state of Connecticut. But, we're also then too, we got to activate people. We got to get you energized to basically want to do those types of improvements. And we do it through this type of community building and as well as outreach, kind of like what we're doing here today, so that we reach out to you all to learn more about how we basically do these energy saving improvements and how you can avail yourselves to financing options to help make it easier to do just that. And then our mission is very simple as well. We are confronting climate change to provide all of society with a healthier and more prosperous future by increasing and accelerating the flow of private capital into markets that can energize the green economy, so that we as a green bank, get some forms of public dollars, and then we use those public dollars as a form then to leverage getting in private sector investment into Connecticut, by basically then using our what is our established products that we put out to the market that have a proof of concept to show that they work, that we can now get the private sector more involved to now help invest with us in these programs so that we can, again, really scale up these programs and then make an even bigger impact to make the state's energy and as well as environmental goals that we're setting out for ourselves. And so, and our main, brand pillars as an organization as always is that we're innovating, creating those new types of products that we can put to the market. We're educating the community, as we're doing right now, to have you learn about those particular products. And then certainly we want to activate you, get you to start, using these products and then doing what you need to do to get an energy saving project deployed for your organization or for your business. All right, so let me talk about a little bit about, what we see as being the energy challenges that are facing property owners today. So we see it really as a threefold issue. Number one, we see that building owners are encountering unpredictable energy costs, and then they're faced by other challenges that are certainly difficult to anticipate or to control. So for example, a property owner at the end of the day, may have equipment in their building that's beginning to get, way too old to manage and to provide effective, performance for providing, obviously, heating and cooling, say, to their building, providing sufficient lighting as well, and any of those types of issues in this case. So those, pieces of equipment can go certainly at any time. And so that basically then puts them in a predicament where now they have a building that's certainly more inefficient, and it's not, basically producing as efficiently as it could be to provide certainly the end uses of the building sufficiently and really, efficiently in this case. So we are, so we understand that property owners can really not anticipate too well, again, when those issues might arise, and that they really don't feel like they have a control then on really what their energy situation is at any given point. The second one is that, with a property owner is presented with obviously these issues, and then they want to take some action to go and make their building more efficient, they're given these whole host of options, but they're really not sure how they can go about, implementing solutions that they know are going to be effective for helping to reduce their energy consumption. And so what happens then is that they fail to have the confidence in themselves because, they are not engineers, they are not people with an energy efficiency expertise, so they're not feeling as confident to know what kind of solutions would be applicable for their building. And then lastly, certainly then building owners are dealing, again, what I was mentioning before about, an aging, inefficient, but then uncomfortable building. So their occupants in the building are maybe going to be in areas where maybe it gets too hot, it gets too cold. It basically leads to, that, type of just uncomfortableness and being in that building where people maybe don't want to work there. They don't want to be there in this case at any given point. So it's really trying to find ways to help then these property owners get over a control, a confidence, and then discomfort issues that they experience when they are inside their buildings and they're operating them for the end users who are there. So one solution to help property owners with making those energy saving improvements is what's known as the CPACE program, which stands for Commercial Property Assessed Clean Energy. And this is a type of a financing mechanism and as well as a repayment mechanism that allows then the Connecticut Green Bank to help you with making energy saving upgrades that are both accessible and affordable to you. And so that when we're working with you, now we're helping you to take control of your own energy costs. You're acting with confidence to know the improvements you're making. It's going to make economic and as well as an energy saving sense to go do. And then certainly it's making your building more comfortable and to make those particular improvements to your building. So in short, let me just touch on how really CPACE works in just a few fine points. The first of which is to say is that, CPACE works for all types of properties who can use it. So when we say commercial industrial, that is a pretty large umbrella of different properties. That can range from your very, small house of worship to as high as then your Class A office building. So we run the gambit in terms of, who we can help. So it can be also in between, those types of properties like, a house of worship, as I mentioned, retail, industrial and manufacturing facilities, warehouses, and any of those others in between that I haven't mentioned. Those are the types of different properties that can be eligible to use the CPACE program to make improvements. And then the idea is that you would work with an energy and building performance professional to design a custom solution. And that custom solution would be designed through basically doing what's known as an energy audit on the building. So where a contractor would be able to go and do a walkthrough of the facility with you to determine really what those particular energy saving improvement opportunities would be based upon what they see through their inspections and analysis that they would do. And certainly we understand that, it has to be custom because, not every building is the same, and not every building has the same energy challenges as the next one does. And so that's why this type of assessment is done on every single building to determine really what that particular building's energy issues are, and we address those according to what those problems might be. And in which case you can avail yourself to any kind of different energy saving upgrade. And we can cover any whole host of energy saving improvements as long as it can show that it's going to be reducing your energy consumption and then translating into energy dollar savings to you as well, your energy costs being reduced. And that can range from things like LED lighting, more efficient HVAC equipment, so for heating and cooling purposes, maybe better insulation in the building, other air sealing efforts, and as well as renewable energy sources. And so that can be your rooftop solar system, it could be a CHP or a combined heat and power type system, fuel cells, and the like. So those could be the sum of the different types of improvements you can do for your program. That is certainly not an exhaustive list that I just went through. So that's what you could avail yourself to. And yeah, and I was just mentioning in this case, so this shows you the breakdown of the different types of properties, that have done improvements over time, and really what we're seeing in this case is being sort of the breakdown of the types of projects that we've done. So you'll notice it's pretty even across different types of properties. But when it comes to our projects, primarily our projects are just a renewable only project. So about 71% of our projects are done that way. In which case 15% of our projects are just standalone energy efficiency projects. And then the last 14% combines both from energy efficiency and renewable energy to be part of the same project. So that they're really doing a deep retrofit that can then also be topped off through doing a renewable energy system with that building. So then just to finish up and talking about how the program works. So the idea then is that when you have a project put together, it's a project that can potentially be financed by 100% of those costs, so that you can have, again, all those costs covered by the program so that you wouldn't have to put any money out of pocket to do an energy saving project. Now, there could be at points where there could be caveats to that if certain requirements are not met, there might be some time you might have to pay some upfront costs for helping the project then to get financed the rest of the way. But again, that is in the rarest of cases that tends to happen, because we always try to aim to have these projects be financed 100% by the program itself in order to help you with again, getting these projects completed. And it's a simple payment structure. So as I mentioned, it's not just the financing in this case, but then it's unique on how it's repaid. The way it gets repaid is that we have the authority as the Green Bank to place a tax assessment or something that is akin to a tax assessment on the property. And then that triggers to then having it where you'll have your CPACE obligation repaid over time with your local town's tax collection. So basically, you'll get a bill along the same schedule as your real estate property tax bill, and then you would pay that for the same cycle that you would pay your real estate property taxes. So in Trumbull, I'm assuming that it's a 2-time-a-year schedule that you would pay it. So you would basically get a January and a July CPACE bill alongside your real estate property tax bill, and you pay all that at once you get those bills in this case. And you basically are able then to have it where you'll be able to just simply pay that back over time to your tax collector, in which case then the tax collector remits on the payment made for CPACE back to the Connecticut Green Bank. So a very simple structure, in which case this then stays with the property and takes on the very same character like a water, sewer, or other type of special type district assessment that can be done by, say, the municipality or whoever that entity is who's holding the lien. And then lastly is that we are encouraging here people to do these projects because it will save on energy and as well as on money. in which case, our projects have to show that the amount of savings you're getting from doing this project has to outweigh how much you're paying back then on the CPACE obligation over time. It's what's known as the savings to investment ratio, or an SIR. So that SIR ratio has to be greater than 1 to show that then we're comfortable to know that there is enough savings over the life of that project to pay back on the investment over time. So the idea then here is that we want to design these projects so it does make economic sense for you as a business owner or as a nonprofit organization to consider doing one of these projects. So as I was mentioning in this case, I went through a lot of detail there in this case, but I think this graphic here really just boils down to a very fundamental point here about what you're seeing at this point. So let's take on, for example, a building on the left here, which is your typical commercial and industrial building. So as of right now, you're just continuing to pay out money for that inefficient building in this case, to your energy bills that you pay every single month in this case. And of course, you're not seeing any savings because you haven't done any energy saving improvements, and therefore no upgrades were done in this case, in which case any money outlay was done for that. So you're just continuing to have that status quo situation where you just keep on paying out that money. But then if you do a project with CPACE, which then would help you finance doing those energy saving upgrades, now this would enable you to get more savings because you've reduced your energy consumption, and that leads to cost savings. And that you will still obviously also continue to pay your cost of your energy bill in this case, but that energy bill should be far reduced with what monies now you still have to continue to pay for what you consume in energy each and every year, as well as then alongside of you paying your CPACE obligation over time. So the bottom line is that this becomes a much different situation because you are now seeing that savings, which is going to help you and your bottom line as a business or a nonprofit. So that you can continue to prosper, and especially again during these very uncertain economic times, in particular because of COVID, this is beneficial to you right now to help with keeping your businesses or your organizations afloat, so that you're seeing more cash flow savings to yourselves to better be able to manage through this particular crisis. So, and I think I'll touch on that a little bit more about how CPACE is going to help new clients with that particular thought in mind. So I'll just touch on a couple of different case studies, both of one of a business, but then another of a nonprofit in this case that have gone through our program. So in a case here of this first project, so we have Crest Mechanical, who's a manufacturer who's based in Hartford, where they did a 55 kilowatt solar system on their building, where they were anticipated to receive almost $418,000 in energy savings over the life of the improvement. And so they have a 34,500 square foot building built around 1925. So, a building that old from energy efficiency standpoint is almost like a tent, where you're not seeing many, basically energy savings in this case. And so basically, the total project cost was about $145,000, and that's the ultimate amount of financing they ended up taking out. And then over a CPACE repayment term of 20 years, they're seeing an assessment that they have to pay back every year, close to about $12,000. And then, but they're seeing an annual energy savings of approximately $21,000. So you're seeing that each and every year, the energy cost savings are more than covering for their annual CPACE assessment, and that they're able to pocket additional energy savings then to themselves each and every year, so that it then looks to be a cash flow positive project for them, even from the first year. And as I mentioned, certainly almost a $418,000 energy cost savings that they're seeing over the life of the improvements, and then as well as a annual energy savings of around 203 million BTUs per year as a result of doing this project. So that's how one business, for example, had benefited from this project. But now let's turn to, what is the other end of the spectrum? So your smaller buildings in this case, but who still also have these energy challenges. So the Calvary Temple Christian Center, which is located in Bridgeport, Connecticut, they did a high efficiency gas boiler and a fuel conversion over to natural gas from fuel oil. And their project would garner them $267,000 in energy cost savings over the life of those improvements that they're doing. So for them, a smaller building in this case, it's only about a 11,700 square foot building. But again, a building that was built many, many years ago, built back in 1870. So it's clear that they needed some energy saving improvements to help their building. And so they did a project that cost about $53,000. They did get an incentive from their utility, which then helped to then decrease their CPACE financing to an ultimate amount of about $52,000, which in case that probably also adds closing fees on top of it. And then taking out a 10-year repayment term, they're paying back an annual assessment amount of about $6,600. But again, their savings they're seeing is more than double that every single year. It's closer to $13,700. So again, more than enough savings to help cover their annual CPACE assessment amount that they're then seeing savings in their pocket each and every year. And again, translating into a lifetime savings for approximately $267,000 just from doing this simple project that they did. And then I'll cap off my part of the presentation here by then just mentioning how we're trying to help property owners right now during this time of the COVID crisis and then the accompanying economic downturn that has resulted because of the outbreak and the spread of the virus. So we at CPACE, we're very conscious of the fact that a lot of business owners and certainly nonprofit organizations, this is a tough time for them right now because of the COVID crisis and that having to have shut down this past spring for several months. And then certainly the ensuing pandemic that is continuing, that is also now leading to a lot of just economic uncertainty at this point, and that you're really unclear about what is going to be your business, your business output over the next 12 to 18 months. Is a nonprofit knowing they're going to be able to keep their doors open to provide their services to the community over that same time frame? So we understand that businesses and nonprofits alike, you have to be able to manage your cash flows well and to be able to retain those cash flows so you can retain employees, keep your businesses doors open, and keep your nonprofits doors open as well to do what you do for your communities, to provide that economic support line and as well as to your just general public services that you do for your community. And so the way we want to help property owners, and we hope this is a way that we can entice you to consider doing a project even during these uncertain times, is that we're trying to offer you these different flexible repayment options so that it can give you a little bit more certainty about managing your cash flows, and that we're taking then this idea of you having then to make an immediate CPACE payment really off the table at this point, and that you can rest easier to know you can continue to manage your cash flows, strategically plan better for yourselves, for your business and organization, while basically we just, we pause on you having to make either your CPACE payments or that you can get a jump start on just maybe paying interest. So the two different options that we're availing to property owners at this time is first to defer your first two payments of your CPACE payment. So this is going to allow you to then, you're reducing your energy consumption and your operating costs. So you're getting all that savings coming back into you as a jump start to really you're jumping up your cash flows, but then you're deferring any payments you had to make back on CPACE up to about an 18-month period. Now, the reason why we're saying up to 18 months is because if you finish a project, say very close to when a repayment date would be for your CPACE obligation with the town, if you don't meet it in time, in which case then they can issue you a bill, then you would just simply advance to whatever those next 6 months would be. So, normally in this case, you would then just be going to whatever the next repayment cycle is going to be, which would be another 6 months later. So nothing is going to happen really for 6 months, but then you're going to get the two deferred payments, which is then now comprised of a 12-month period, because you'd had one payment at another 6 months from then, and then another payment would have come due then another 6 months from then. But we're going to defer those two payments so that, again, you're getting a deferment up to 18 months. So that now it's giving you some time to breathe easier and recover so that you then can plan then for what hopefully then by that point would be a better economic climate for you to be able to make your normal CPACE payments. So that gives you maximum immediate relief because, again, to help to mitigate your uncertainty and tighter margins you might have in the short term. And then, again, we're eliminating that initial payment to you because, again, we need to basically make the payments, it eliminates the need to make payments today while again increasing your payments over the term of the loan. So, that is something that's again a short-term help to you, help you manage your cash flows, and that you can continue to manage your businesses and organizations the best you can during this economic downturn. And then the other option available to you is making interest-only payments for up to 3 years. So if you don't want to make your full payment of CPACE in this case, but you also don't want to defer and you want to get a jump start on some other aspects of paying back the CPACE obligation, this is another way to do it, that you would then make interest-only payments so that you can make some of those payments now and then be able then to help you then down the line on then how your payments will look in terms of you making your CPACE repayments over time. And so this will then give you then still the opportunity to begin your repayments, but those are going to be reduced. So that's still going to give you more time to recover in terms of your cash flows and just your overall business or organizational sustainability efforts in this case that you're doing, so you remain in business or your organization open. And this could also too help to mitigate against, again, uncertainty and tighter margins, certainly both in the near and as well as even the medium term, so that you're still then realizing the long-term benefits of CPACE then by doing this type of a repayment mechanism. And then of course, this helps reduce your initial payments today, and then while modestly then increasing those payments over time, for you then to, again, you get a jump start on your CPACE repayments, but not paying as much as you would have probably done making a full CPACE payment at the times that you're required to do so. So these are also just some options that we have on the table right now to help any new clients. And we hope that this is something that can entice you to consider doing an energy saving project even today, even being in an uncertain an atmosphere and climate that we find ourselves in. So that's just something that we wanted to offer out to anybody who's interested to want to go and pursue a project at this time. All right, with that said, I'm going to now turn things over to my colleague, Emily, and she'll talk to you a little bit more about a power purchase agreement and how that all works. On over to you, Emily.
Thanks, Nick. Hope everybody can hear me okay. My name is Emily Basham, and I work with Nick at the Connecticut Green Bank. And before we get to questions, we just wanted to take a couple of slides and explain the Green Bank's solar PPA program. So Nick mentioned earlier that solar is one of the measures that can be financed with the CPACE program. And we actually have a standalone financing offer for solar installations called the Green Bank Solar Power Purchase Agreement, or a solar PPA. So if any of you have looked into putting solar on your property, there's kind of a number of ways that you can do that, a number of different ownership structures. You could purchase and own the panels. You could take out, a loan to make that purchase. You could sign a lease and lease solar panels and pay, like monthly fee. Or you could sign a power purchase agreement and buy the generation that comes off of those panels. And this last one is what the Green Bank offers through our Green Bank PPA program. And in that arrangement, the Green Bank is the owner of the solar system. So we're responsible for constructing it, getting the permits, finding the contractor, and managing the solar system that's actually located on your property. So the Green Bank owns and operates the installation, and then we sell the electricity that is produced from that system to you through a power purchase agreement. So through the PPA, you're agreeing to buy everything that's all the electricity, all the kilowatt hours that are generated from that system at an agreed upon price. And any electricity needs, would be met by that generation from the system. And anything additional that you might need, you would purchase, from the utility. So on the paperwork side, what exactly is a PPA? It's a contract. So if you move forward with the Green Bank PPA, what you're ultimately signing is a contract between someone who's generating electricity and selling it, and the other party that's purchasing the electricity, or the buyer. And in this scenario, the Green Bank is the seller, and you would be the customer buying the electricity. And that's ultimately the financial arrangement for procuring solar electricity through a PPA. And the Green Bank also oversees kind of the development and asset management of the system located, on your roof or maybe on some lawn property that you might have. And we work with local pre-approved installers to develop and construct the system. Nick, can you go to the next slide? Thanks. So what are the benefits of a PPA? Why do people choose to do a PPA over maybe doing a lease or purchasing it? Because the Green Bank is ultimately owning the system, we're constructing it, we're providing all of the upfront costs. So there's nothing out of pocket for you at all. It's only when the system is generating and giving you kilowatt hours that you're paying for those kilowatt hours. So that might be attractive, not having to, find financing or a loan to actually purchase the system. And probably the most popular reason or the largest motivation to do a PPA is that you're not worrying about actually owning the asset and having to maintain it over the life of the system, which is typically 20 or 30 years. Instead, it's managed by the Green Bank. We're making sure that any sort of repairs that need to happen over the 20 years happen, and that comes out of our pocket. We fold, those costs that we anticipate into the price that you're paying for the electricity that's coming off of the system. But that price that you're paying is lower than the kilowatt hour price that you're paying for your utility energy. So you're really locking in a lower electricity rate for what's being generated from the system. That allows you to preserve your capital, preserve any lines of credit, and really end up cash flow positive in the first year. And this arrangement is kind of illustrated by the chart on the right in the screen. So this kind of shows how those savings work. So really, the value of using a PPA is from your electricity cost savings. If you look at this chart, the purple line is indicating the cost from utility power over the next 20 years. Our PPA arrangements are 20-year agreements. So over the next 20 years, we know utility rates are increasing. Even from year one, we're offering you a PPA rate or a kilowatt hour rate that's going to be lower than the kilowatt hour rate you're paying the utility. So you're locking in that rate. This is a fixed kilowatt hour rate over the 20 years. So over the years, those savings are going to grow, indicated by the pink area, the delta between the purple line and the green line over the next 20 years, and those are your savings. So the solar PPA works in conjunction with CPACE or standalone. So you could just do a solar project using our PPA, or you could do a more comprehensive project, and include some of the measures that Nick mentioned earlier from our case studies, do some energy efficiency measures, or maybe you need to upgrade your HVAC, and you can finance that whole project using CPACE. So there's a lot of flexibility there. Happy to go into any additional questions about the solar PPA program, but maybe we should just, Nick, go to the next slide and open it up for all questions.
One other thing I'll mention, by the way, and thanks again, Emily, for touching on the PPA, but also too, if you need to get a roof replaced as a result of doing a rooftop solar system, that's also another way that CPACE can work in conjunction with the PPA. So you would debt finance the roof cost through the CPACE program, and then the PPA would then be done and used for the solar project. So that's also too, if you had a other capital improvement need to replace the roof, that's also another way that we've used both the CPACE program and the PPA in conjunction with one another, and it's worked very well.
Thank you both. That was such great information. I'm just going to unmute quickly. Just because we have a smaller group, I believe if anyone has a question, you can just go ahead and unmute yourself and ask the question, and then I'll wrap up with some of my final thoughts after that. Do we have any questions in the group? Well, I, for one, think I'll just, wrap up. If anybody wants to interject, please feel free. Nick, I think you did a great job of updating us on some of the new flexible repayment options. I think that's really helpful in today's time for preserving capital and being able to maximize that opportunity. For anybody listening, I think that this whole I feel like the whole prospect of utilizing renewable energy, energy efficient upgrades, the Connecticut Green Bank offerings, it's like a whole new language. I feel like there's lots of acronyms and terms, and I've spent hours and months familiarizing myself. And I think both of you did a great job of breaking it down and simplifying it. Emily, I think you did a great job of placing a PPA agreement in the context of multiple options available to building owners of what they can do with, with solar exclusively or, aside from the CPACE financing. Unfortunately, I did invite the owner of our own Trumbull's in-sports facility to join us today, and he was not able to make it, but I do want to speak to him as another example in addition to the two that were provided. I think, when you look at taking on additional payment in the form of debt for CPACE, I think Nicholas did a great job of showing the energy savings alone can offset that payment. But additionally, if you're looking at solar as your energy purchase, you can seek additional income from UI's renewable energy credits as an additional way to offset that debt. So while that's a topic for another discussion, it's just something to keep in mind as an additional way to crunch the numbers. So.
Thanks, Mari. And I'll just also add, it can be overwhelming to consider, this type of a project happening, especially at a time like now. Right. We have a great website for the CPACE program. It's literally just cpace.com. And if you can visit that at any time to see not just the case studies that Nick showed, but a handful of other case studies to really understand what types of projects people are putting together, what those costs are, and what those savings really look like, and get your mind kind of turning about what could happen at your property. And then I'll just also mention that I'm a manager of partnership development across multiple products at the Green Bank, and Nick exclusively works on CPACE projects, working with our contractors, working actually with property owners. So it is a large portion of our job to work with you and talk with you about potential projects. So definitely don't hesitate to reach out. And even if it's just kind of a scoping conversation, we'd be happy to help you explore this type of project, whether it be now or maybe later in the year, sometime in the future. So our information is on the screen, and don't hesitate to reach out.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and we'll look to various avenues to get all of this information out aside from today's recording, which I think I'll stop for now. And if